just saw it with Miami Dolphins. The pressure, he's in trouble. Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle. It's a Dolphin touchdown. Going deep upfield on the near side. Man open. Touchdown! Looking deep. He's got it there. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it over the touchdown! Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
All right, huddle up, huddle up. We're gonna crank these engines up on one. All right? Wait, 80. Wait, set. Drivers, start your engines.
This is the Finish Line.
I coached a great offensive lineman in the past. Larry Little, Dwight Stevenson, Jim Langer, all Hall of Famers, and Richmond Webb belongs to that same group.
Here are your hosts, legendary Miami Dolphins left tackle Richmond Webb, Reason, and Mr. Ballgame.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we're back here for another one on a day off of camp where we can look back as the pads have come on, and we're, about 6 days into camp now. So just about at the week mark, we can look into we're going to go over our top performers. Each one of us has picked a top performer for the first week of camp. Then we got the Dolphins have made some roster moves. We're going to get into Tua and the offseason measures he talked about and how it's already paying dividends. Also, his recent interview with SiriusXM Satellite Radio, where a portion of it, he kind of hinted at the historic offense we've been talking about. We're going to talk about some Braxton Berrios, some news and notes on the team, the latest on Dalvin Cook, and all that. And before I even hand over the floor to these gentlemen to get their opening thoughts here, Richmond, I got an email yesterday, and
oh, you did.
It was about, it's about me, but you were mentioned in it. So I thought I'd bring it up here on screen. Shout out to Nick Ham. And it's on the screen here, and it says, "Hello, Reason. I've been following your show for about 3 years now. Thanks for the content. Thanks for connecting your community to our beloved team. You answered my question once when I asked you if you knew where Kitchener-Waterloo was. I'm 62 years old. A retired high school teacher from Ontario in Canada, now living in Malawi, Africa for nearly 3 years. I've followed the Dolphins since Woodley and Strock, Andre Franklin, and the Killer Bees. It is through these early teams and Don Shula that I learned to appreciate and learn the game of football as a new immigrant to Canada. I have fond memories of taking my then wife and my oldest son to Buffalo for the live game experiences and fortunate enough to get down to Dolphin facilities and all the memories around those events. Kindness of security guards, Dolphin employees, and particularly John Gamble, the strength and conditioning coach back when they had in the early 2000s. You have a knack for picking players for the team that really surprises me. Good for you. Why can our team not find that kind of consistent success annually? I don't know. Although Greer has had some very good successes and has been given more authority to put together personnel and team, he has risen to greater level of success. This year is indeed an exhilarating year in anticipation as we approach the regular season. Life is often not what we would have prescribed to, but it is what we make of the circumstances. Love that line. You have attained a level of success on your platforms, and I congratulate you for that. You seem like a genuinely good man and a good family man, and you, like our Tua, are easy to root for, and I do. Out of Malawi, it's not always possible to catch my team every week, but I do generally, even if the internet freezes periodically. I volunteer at an orphanage and am connected to other ministries like Street Youth and Prison Ministries. I see Agba bringing the NFL experiences to Kenya, Africa, and wonder if Malawi, where I am could not gain NFL interest. My oldest son, Matthias, is also a huge Dolphin fan, and I would love nothing more than to surprise him and encourage him with his personal growth, in his confidence as a man and a husband. He's 31 years old and a good man. I wish I could have done more for him. No matter how old the kids are, it doesn't change how we feel about them. When he was young, but I'm not the man then as I am the man today. Richmond Webb is a well-known figure for both my son and I. I know from my experience, the words from a stranger at the right time can do wonders to a person's outlook on life. As a dad, no matter how old the kids are, it doesn't change how we feel about them. And then he goes on to say he's back in Kitchener-Waterloo. So I wanted to shout this. His name's Nick, and I wanted to give Nick a shout out because you know what? That's why we do this. That's why I get up here and spend hours of my life doing this for someone like that who, you know, they're displaced because they're in Africa. They can't catch the Dolphins as much as they can. So they rely on people like us to keep them informed. And someone who bonded with his son over memories of you, Richmond Webb, you know, and I can relate to that because I bonded with my father over memories of Dan Marino and your team, right? So I don't know, man. I just wanted to read that and shout him out because, you know, it's a beautiful thing when those are the kind of things. You know, it's not about the likes, the subscriptions, the views, the money, or anything like that. Those are the kind of things that move the needle for you personally as a content creator when you get those kind of things. So I appreciate you, Nick. And I read all the emails that come in, but I saw, you know, a lot of similarities in terms of the story with his son. And I also saw, you know, Richmond Webb. They grew up and they bonded over Richmond Webb. So shout out to you, Nick, and to your son, Matthias. Anyways, on that note, Richmond and Ballgame, how are y'all doing as week 1 of training camp has now concluded?
I'm doing good. Like you said, I think it's always inspiring and uplifting when you can, you know, you get an email or you get a note from someone like that, letting you know that you are making a difference, and it doesn't matter whether it's 110, 100,000. I think when you set out with this podcast, it was to educate not only Dolphin fans, but NFL fans and people that really didn't understand football. And then, you know, teamed up with me and Ballgame. And I'm the player, but y'all know the coaches, the schemes. I don't know all that. I know what's inside that box between the two defensive ends and the linebackers and stuff. I'll let y'all deal with that. But it's just always good when somebody gives you your flowers, when, you know, it's rewarding. Like you said, it's not about the likes, it's not about this and that. But, you know, we talked about it a long time ago. Long as you do what you set out to do, the rest of that stuff will take care of itself. But it's good. But back to training camp and everything good. It started last week, but I say when the pads come on, that's when it starts for me. So definitely glad to come together. You know, the thing I think right after it started was the Jalen Ramsey situation. We might touch on that a little bit, so I'll wait for that. But other than that, my man Teron Armstead, you know, got activated. So a lot of good things, excited. You know, they got a day off. I'm sure the players are happy about that. How does it been? But other than that, I'm good and just ready to chop it up with you and Mr. Ballgame. How you doing, Mr. Ballgame?
Man, I'm great. We here now. Pads are on. We here now. It's football season for real now. Flag football is gone. We are in the trenches, baby. This is exactly what we here for. This is exactly the time of year that gets your heart pumping and get your blood boiling and all these good things. I'm so ecstatic right now, man, because, you know what I'm saying, no matter what, right? I watch Twitter. I watch the feeds. I watch stuff that people say. And it still amazes me, man, that people would jump out into the street butt naked, man, with no idea and no concept as to what football really is about. But that's what I'm here for. That's what you know what I'm saying? I fire back from, you know, and the good thing is at this point now, I take an approach of just making sure that it's from a good space, so that they, saying they don't feel like I'm attacking them, and people seem to then at that point take what you're saying, and then they hit you up in the DM and all this other stuff, asking questions and all that type of stuff. So the reason we do this is exactly the same reason why you just, you illustrate, that you illustrated, right? And you reiterated one of them words. I got a whole lot of stuff I'm thinking right now. That was an amazing letter email that dude wrote you, Evisa. And I just think, man, way back when we were way over there on TDE's podcast, and we said that it was supposed to be about education, right? It was never about egos. It was never about anything else other than educating people and just putting good content and good information out so people could have the most, the most authentic experience with their learning of the game, because so many people didn't. And I'm glad he reached out to you, man. That's just a testament to the fact that you are indeed the top guy out here, in my opinion. I don't care what nobody else say, and our ability to be up here with you on Wednesdays and whatever days that we come together to do this, man, is just a blessing. And we just keep doing what we're doing, man, because that's what matters the most, man. It's about the people, and the biggest thing is I don't want us as a fan base, when we're holding up the trophy, at the Super Bowl, to act like we ain't never been here. You feel me? I want us to walk around with our head up, proud to say we're Dolphins fans and we're educated about how we got here and we belong there. So that's the biggest thing for me. So let's get it.
Knight says, we have a real middle linebacker. Please tell me I'm not dreaming. You're not dreaming. And we're going to talk about him tonight. And, it's something you just spoke of, like, about how we set out to educate and inform Ballgame. Like, for a perfect example, I watched a content, I use the term loosely, content creator claim, sit there and be amazed at this Fangio defense. Oh, it's good and it's bad. It'll stop the over-the-top explosive plays, but, it'll just give you the underneath plays all day. And I'm sitting there, I'm watching, and, me and you and Martin made the video detailing Fangio's defense better than anyone out here. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, my God. That's what the defense is supposed to do. That's literally what it is. Yeah. Take away everything over top. Let you dink and dunk all day, because A, you're going to run out of time, and B, you're going to run into the end zone where you're going to run into the red zone where everything shrinks, the field shrinks, and now all of a sudden they're just going to field goal you to death. Like, that's literally the design of the defense. Give you the underneath stuff, but take away anything explosive or any big plays. Like, that's how this defense is designed. Like, and I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, oh my God. And like, that's the reason why we make these type of videos. So when you watch those type of people say those type of things, you guys can go, oh my God, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. So anyways, enough of that. That was my rant, because I just watched it. I'm like, oh my God, that's literally what the defense is supposed to do. In the simplest of terms, that's what Fangio's defense is designed to do. Like, stop right here.
Big
People
facts.
claim to be fans. Oh my God.
You can have whatever you want, 20-20.
Exactly. Yeah. So I know you wanted to talk about it before we get into everything here and before we get into all the topics of tonight. Obviously, you wanted to touch on it, Richmond, Jalen Ramsey, the Jalen Ramsey loss. You know what I mean? Because we didn't have a chance to cover last week. It happened the day after we did last week, right? And I've heard things. Bryce Thompson playing at safety, a lot of corners rotating at safety, because fans that are going to training camp are wondering, why am I seeing X rotate up to safety? Well, basic coverages basically determine, based off motion, etc., how you're going to rotate your corners in this defense, and some of them are going to rotate to the high point and take half the field. What's up? Go ahead.
So I think people failing to understand also is that a lot of times with this match zone coverage, there's going to be a need for the corner to be the say the left hash or the left half of the field, deep half player, because of the fact that they don't roll from maybe cover 6 or cover 4 into a cover 2 invert, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas in that the cornerbacks now have halves and the safeties are flaring down to play and you know what I'm saying, in the curl flat or to the hard flat, and then the linebackers are playing the seams and the middle linebackers on a buck drop. You know what I'm saying? And you know, all of those things need to happen as the offenses change formation. But if the guys don't rep them now, then you know what I'm saying, that's the whole point about why they're doing it now. So they get comfortable with it, and the shifts happen in full time, so that they can actually work themselves through the nuances of it. And reason you are frozen, my brother. So that's why you see corners playing. That's why y'all see corners playing safety responsibilities and things of that nature, because some of the defensive calls, you know, command that. You know, especially like cover 2 invert. So yeah, he froze on us, bro.
He froze. Yeah.
Yeah. But until he gets back, I think one of the biggest things that I saw all week that was pretty interesting was the fact that people were talking over and over again about the differences between the years, right? And I like to remind people that for like 3 years, right, especially when Flores took over, we really didn't have. I wouldn't consider it to be. I don't consider when you're running zero. That's not a scheme, right? That's just a play. That's a play call, or that's more or less a play call that you actually hoping to catch somebody off with. And you know, like I know in the game of football, providing pressure, generally more times than none, you're going to be successful. You know what I'm saying? Quarterback's going to try to get the ball out to his the hottest taker. He's going to force something. You can force a turnover, or you can get a sack or things of that nature. That's not sustainable long term on any level. And the fact that the Dolphins did it and we became, as fans, so used to it, because that became the only thing that we could run successfully during those eras, I think that's a bad thing. What you're going to see now, folks, more so than anything, is that there's a change in philosophies. And along came Fangio with a philosophy that gives you a man look. Everything's too high. Everything looks the same pre-snap, but there's a lot of intricacies working after the snap. So when you start seeing players traditionally players out of their traditional positions, it's okay, because that's what the formations are designed to do. That's why, you know what I'm saying, if you see the corner rolling up to the deep half, that's going to make and force the quarterback to hold the ball longer, so the pass rush can get there, and then chances are, or he throws into a coverage earlier than expected, and then there's a pick because he was thinking maybe it was cover 2. I mean, thinking maybe it was cover 3 or cover 4, but it was actually invert, and now the safety's coming down to the shallow or into the intermediate area of the field where the tight end is at, and the safety's picking it and he's going the other way. All of these things we weren't privy to in the Brian Flores era. And then last year, if y'all remember specifically, Boyer tried a lot of zone coverages, but the problem was he went too traditional with the zone coverages, and it left us a lot of times exposed, because guys had so many rules that they had to calculate about where they were supposed to drop to, who's supposed to get under the hot, who's got to carry the seam, all these different things. And we just never got comfortable in it, and because they never really did it, because the prior 2 years it was all cover 0, cover 0, cover 0, cover 0. So I just ask y'all to be patient. But if you are seeing these intricacies happening now at this point, and when you're watching the film and stuff, be happy, because that's evolution. That's the evolutionary change of what your defense is supposed to look like, and that's what is actually supposed to happen when you bring in a guy who's already thinking 3-4 steps ahead of the defense. I mean, of the offense, right? Yeah. The defense could be very simple, but because everything looks the same pre-snap, there's no tails for the quarterback, which means that the quarterback don't know who his hot's going to be until the ball is high, which means that the wide receiver's going to have to do a lot more thinking too. They're going to have to read coverages. And I'm going to be honest with you. There's different tiers of players in the league in regards to their ability to process information that fast on the spot. Quarterbacks generally are the first ones that have to do it. If your wide receiver is just a guy that's just a brute to be able to go out there and catch passes, and he's not in the playbook really understanding what the 3 hots are when he's seeing cover 3 as opposed to what cover 4 is giving him, as opposed to what man is giving him, but it's all looking the same to him pre-snap, and he makes the wrong read. Quarterback could be right, The wide receiver could be wrong and the ball's going the other way, and that's what this defense is going to give us. So that's just my little tidbit of y'all need to be happy and praising the fact that you are seeing all these different changes to what traditional plays or positions from our corners for guys dropping and play cover two. That tells me that there's something intricate going on underneath it, and then you know what I'm saying, all these different things that Fangio has brought to the forefront this early. It's going to make a lot of things confusing and a lot of things real hard for a lot of these teams that we're going to see this year. And that's just my piece. I just ran through that, bro. I had to get that off my chest. So.
Did you get it off?
Yeah. I got it off.
No, but you know what, Ballgame, you brought up some real interesting points. And I kind of thought about the zero blitz that we used to run, and normally it's more than you can pick up. So, like you said, it is a design hot route, but when you if that's your bread and butter, you continue to lean on it. People are gonna kind of figure it out, and if you miss it, it could be 6 points, this and that. So, and it's always tougher, like you said, when the defense looks the same pre-snap every time, and then they roll to a different coverage. It's harder to detect what they're trying to do, and I remember, I think back in the day when I was playing Dick LeBeau, when he was with the Steelers and stuff, they used to do some stuff in their third down nickel packages that, they have 7 or 8 defensive backs in there, and you had to make sure, because one time this guy made blitz or this guy, and then also Tampa did a good thing where even if you figured out what they were doing, they would go to the sideline and make adjustments and still be able to apply pressure. So, I agree with everything you said. This is more complex. I think it's going to be tougher where, like you said, if you got young receivers or somebody that don't understand and it looked like cover two and they roll it, as soon as the ball snap, it's going to create some turnovers and stuff. I think that's the tough part about what Fangio, the way he designs and stuff like that. Right. Welcome back, Reason. We missed you, brother. You froze up on us. It's a little chilly up there in Toronto.
What happened was yesterday. This is kind of going to sound wild, but yesterday, I guess around like 4 a.m., a building, like a new subdivision, went up in massive flames, and like to the point like there's like soot and stuff, like soot and all that kind of jazz. And ash all on, like it was on the car this morning. It was on, and I guess the thought process is that this is the second time this has happened in the last couple of weeks to a subdivision by the same builder, and they're thinking they're trying to get that insurance money.
Oh wow!
Ooh.
The fire was ridiculous. Yes, like it was stupid. Like they shut up, like it was crazy. Anyways, so I guess the power was out from 4 a.m. till about 12 p.m. today. And then we just had a surge. It like flashed. It like as soon as it went out, it was back on. So I had to wait for the router and everything, and the Google Home Wi-Fi to kick back in, and we're all good now. So, all right. Well, you guys kept it rolling. I appreciate that. Let's get into one of the things on this. Well, first of all, before we get into our stuff here, just some housekeeping notes for everyone in case they didn't see. I got a couple housekeeping notes for you, actually. Number one, the Miami Dolphins today, they waived punter Michael Turk, and they waived Oregon safety Bennett Williams. So 2 roster spots have opened up. Then they turned around and they signed special teams specialist safety Myles Dorn, third-year pro, played 14 games over the last 2 seasons. He's a special teamer guy, so another body to camp. There is a open spot now. I've heard they brought there's a report out there that they brought. First of all, there's 2 reports regarding the linebackers. Channing Tindall, one of the reasons apparently that there's been a little bit of an uptick in his play. Navarro Bowman, the former San Francisco 49ers linebacker, has been actually working with our linebacker unit. Interesting little tidbit there from Simon Clancy of 3 yards per carry. So Navarro Bowman putting in work with our unit. He was a beast. He was fantastic. Remember who he lined up next to? Good old Patrick Willis, right? And apparently
Patrick
the
Willis.
rumor out there is we brought in former Boston College and Cincinnati Bengals linebacker Wyatt Ray. Apparently he worked out for the Miami Dolphins. So, but that isn't from like a Rappaport or one of those sources. So looking at linebacker depth, but again, he's another special teamers guy. He's not going to change because I don't know. Do you see how jacked Aubrey Miller is? Oh my God. So there's a little couple of news and notes for you guys. I know he's ridiculous, and he's been playing good. But let's get into this. Let's start off. All right, we got a good one for all of y'all with the first topic here. Well, let's get the easy one out of the way. Richmond Webb.
Here we go.
All right, let's go into our top performers after the first week. Now, we could have said Tua. We could have said Long, who are the obvious offensive and defensive top performers of the first week. We could have said either one of those, but all of us went off script, which I like when we do that. So, Richmond, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Ballgame, and then we'll get my rebuttal to Ballgame after that. Go ahead.
Y'all get ready. It's going to be Spence Crawford in here tonight, so y'all get ready. Hey, my pick was Kendall Lamb. Of course, I'm going to stick with the big boys. And the reason I chose this young man is, Teron Armstead was out, and, he's been running with the first team. And so he's been playing pretty consistent, pretty well throughout camp. And to me, that's very important because they add depth to our offensive line, especially at the tackle position. And we know Teron Armstead missed games last year. And, he missed 4 or 5 games. So when you get a guy like Lamb that can fill in for Teron Armstead or even Austin Jackson, it just helps as far as depth that you don't just panic and say, it's a huge drop-off because he's been playing pretty well. He played last year, I think, against Buffalo and played pretty well. So definitely impressed with that young man, but it gives him a chance to get reps with the first. It's not like, he's a new face in the huddle and everybody looking at him and wondering whether he can do it or not. So I chose Kendall Lamb, but he's been – that's definitely a benefit for us. So to help strengthen the offensive line. So that was my pick right there.
And I don't know if you heard, but he played some snaps at right tackle as well in training camp, and they said the drop-off really wasn't from left tackle. Like, he held his own at right tackle a little bit when he got some snaps. All right, enough of that, though. Let's get into the interesting ones. Ballgame, your top performer. Go ahead. Put everyone on their ass right now. Let them know.
So listen, my top performer is a guy that they haven't even talked about at all. And listen, one thing you got to understand, I'll give y'all a little bit of backstory. As a coach, right, when we go through the whole process of going and setting up the scripting practices, generally, as a new coach, I'm coming in, I don't know any of the kids. So I get an opportunity to actually go out and see who I'm working with, right? I got some info from the previous coaches that were there if they got kept on to the staff. But for the most part, I don't know these people. So I go back and I watch film on kids. You go back and watch tape. You listen to the dad is talking about them, all this different stuff. But you get them all out there and you just let them all go through the process and you rank and you stack them, right? You stack them based on who's been there the longest, who was available. If a guy was injured and hurt, those guys get an opportunity to come back at some point and show me what you got as well. But you go with the guys that's been there. So my guy's Noah, and I know y'all gonna kill me for this, but I think as a cornerback, right? One of the things that you don't want to be doing, you got 2 ways to look at it. You can either be mentioned, for making great plays, or you can be mentioned for making bad plays. And he has been consistently somebody they haven't talked about at all. And what they're not saying is that he's actually running with the ones and the twos, and he's holding his own. At this point right now, I think across the board that's a testament to the fact that 1, he's not having to process as much. 2, he's a little more mature. And 3, he's got somebody that actually probably sat him down and told him, you know what, man, you ain't got nowhere to go but up from here. So we believe in you. We know you have the physical ability to do this thing. You just got to go out and prove it. And maybe that's all he needed, right? We all know that, Flores went through the whole process of drafting him way too high. That, nobody's going to argue that point. But I think when it comes down to it, there was a maturity or lack of maturity as well, right? That had to happen for him. And unfortunately, as Dolphin fans, we've had to wait until the 4th year to see or hear about this change in who he is and his play on the field. But nevertheless, I'm patient with corners. I have to be. That's where my history comes from. I've seen kids go from not being able to backpedal to being some of the most lockdown corners on, on the planet. And some of those kids, like Odori, who couldn't backpedal for save his life, is still in the league now today with a job. And Darnay Holmes, guys like that, you know what I'm saying? I coached all these kids, so I get it. He's not the favorite. He's not the fan favorite name. But at this point, they're not saying Tyreek's out there blowing his doors off. Waddle's not killing him. Chosen's not killing him. Berrios is not killing him. He holding his own, and that's all you really need and want from a corner at some point. Right now, maybe things will change, but at this point right now, not being heard from, I think is just as good as being heard about a lot, and that ties into the guy that you picked. So, no ignorogamy for me at this point after the first week. Now it might change, but I like the fact that they're giving him a shot to go out there and fight for a job. So we'll see how it all plays out.
But let people know because there's also context to it. You mean he's not getting burnt in 11-11s because
right.
Tell people how you feel about one-on-ones because one-on-ones aren't designed for the corners, right?
So one-on-ones in the true sense of that drill is an advantage for the wide receiver because the quarterback knows where the wide receiver is going and the wide receiver knows where he's going. The corner has to play the guessing game and read the body language of the, of the wide receiver. So you got two people against one person. So there's always a disadvantage for the corner. So I don't really put a whole lot of stock into one-on-one. I just want to see how, for one-on-ones, I want to see how willing a guy is to compete, knowing that he's two versus one. In that situation, if he's willing to go up there, get his hands on a guy, try to reroute a guy, even if the guy makes the catch, if he's there to be able to try to make a play on it, all those things matter. If he gets beaten 1-on-1, but he ain't getting beaten 11-on-11, I'm okay with that. Now, if he's getting killed in 11-on-11s, but he over there is a stud in 1-on-1, there's a problem. That's ass backwards and all facets of the process, and that's not what you want. I'd rather him be solid in 11-on-11s with his teammates being able to depend on him and know he's going to do what he's supposed to do as opposed to him being by himself 2-on-1 against the quarterback and the wide receiver. You see what I'm saying? So that's that.
So my top performer is a man we didn't have to wait for 4 years to hear rave reviews in training camp for, but also, hold on a sec. Give me 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second.
Uh-oh. Be prepared for this one, ball game.
His guy was.
No, sorry, hold on.
Guy was.
I had to go run a victory lap on being right about them taking Cam Smith in the second round, and all these people were out here absolutely crapping on taking Cam Smith. So my bad. Listen, Cam Smith to me, especially with the pressure that came on with Ramsey, because here's the thing with Igbenogany too. The pressure's off Igbenogany. Everyone's pretty much already settled on 90% of the people have settled on, okay, because you think about this. I said this. When you look at the new investment in Cam Smith, when you look at Xavien Howard, Jalen Ramsey, Nick Needham, when you look at Eli Apple, and you look at Kader Kohou, there's 6 guys there. I don't see Noah passing because the light's just starting the light may just start going. See, because here's another thing I'm not buying here with Noah. Noah's like the Jakeem Grant of the cornerback room. Remember early on in camp last year, he had the glasses on. Everyone was like, oh, Noah's going to pop. Noah was making noise. Noah. And then we got 1 pick out of the whole thing. And yeah, someone tried to say to me, what, you forgot that he won a game? Well, he didn't win the game. He might have sealed the game a little bit there. But I waited 3 years for that, and there was a lot of burnt toast that popped out of the toaster for the wait for that one. So, you know what I mean? Listen, I haven't asked Ballgame to pay up on the bet because it ain't over yet. It ain't over till the fat lady sings, and she might be sipping her pre-singing tea right now. Maybe so, with some camel in there. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going on, but I'm just the fingers up. She might be warming her throat up right now, but it ain't over. And all it takes is a good off season, and please God, don't happen. But all it takes is an opportunity through maybe injury. Through injury. No, I was prefacing saying injury. Or opportunity through an injury that he has to step up. You know what I mean? I was prefacing the injury part because I don't want anyone to get injured. That's why I was saying, please God, don't happen. Injury. So hey, and Ballgame and Lion too. Ballgame and Lion. He's been working against the 1 and 2s. See, now Ballgame trying to deflect with the cuteness. See, I see her game.
Mm-hmm. Got his grandbaby there. Yeah, okay. She getting big, but how many months is she now, Ballgame? 8 months? She's about 8 months?
7 months.
7 months, okay.
7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good night.
Yeah.
These kids in that Disney
Right,
makes a killing, eh? My God, Disney makes a killing.
Yeah.
Anyways, cuteness is over. You can't deflect Ballgame. So I'm gonna take Cam Smith. Listen to this point, Ballgame in line, but Noah's got to be one of those ones you don't fall in the trap. You know what I mean? Like, one of those women you see on Instagram, they got no teeth and all these craters on their face, and they put on all this makeup, and next thing you know, they look like they're ready to walk a freaking runway. I don't know what's going on. Noah's the enemy. Noah's the cornerback version of that. I gotta see some beauty, right? I gotta see something, bro. I gotta see something first. Anyways,
not the crater face.
Oh man. So Cam Smith, Kendall Lamb, and Noah Benogany. Yes, I can feel the shudder league wide from the fan base when I say those names. Those are our performers of the first week of camp. Those are who we're picking for our top performers. So let's get into Tua. And Tua right now, we got 2 things to cover here with Tua Tagovailoa. Right now, guys, more info on that helmet. Dolphins Tua sees offseason measures taken to stay healthy, paying off. He's going to try that new helmet. Much more of the talk surrounding Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa entering the 2023 season isn't about his play, but rather whether he can stay healthy for a full season. So even as Tagovailoa, along with star wide receiver tandem of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle had what might have been the trio's best practice a week into training camp, it didn't feel too groundbreaking because it's been seen before during much of last season. His play in 2022 somewhat answered the questions about whether he could be a reliable starter in the NFL, but multiple concussions over the course of the season forced him to miss 5.5 games. Off-season measures were taken between bulking up and adding muscle to better withstand big hits with off-season jiu-jitsu courses to learn how to fall less often in awkward positions to put his head at risk. Oh, and that new quarterback-specific helmet that the NFL designed early this offseason to help reduce concussions for league signal callers, the Vicus 02 Matrix, Tagovailoa is leaning towards using it in games. He said he tested it through organized team activities and mandatory minicamp and has continued to use it in training camp. It was like a percentage better than the helmet I had, he said. Everything matters, and so I'm going to play that percentage. If you look at it last year, it wasn't anyone really hitting my head. It was really just the ground. The helmet is designed to offer increased protection for head-to-ground contact and to the back of the head, since quarterbacks are often taken down on their backs from a pass rush in front of them. An off-season of weekly jiu-jitsu lessons can help certain techniques become muscle memory as Tagovailoa gets taken to the ground in different ways during games, but Tagovailoa said it'll still take time before it's truly instinctual. It's not to where it's something that it's muscle memory yet for me. I don't think that'll be something that becomes muscle memory unless I do it for like a year or 2 years. You're very conscious of it in the back of your mind when you end up doing it. But it's not like, oh, if I'm falling this way, I know exactly how to fall right here, unless I'm actually thinking of doing it that way. So I've got to continue to work on it and practice it. The instincts won't be tested in practice when defenders aren't allowed to tackle quarterbacks or make much of any contact with them. But Coach Mike McDaniel called one instance where the results were exhibited in a possibly exaggerated tale. In OTAs, he got stepped on and he fell down backwards and completed a backwards somersault. McDaniel said it was.
Oh, hell. Okay.
Tagovailoa clarified Tuesday exactly what happened. I got hit from someone in front of me, he explained. I sort of hit a little somersault going backwards and I flipped backwards. No backflips over here, though. It was cool to see. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing that we're doing jiu-jitsu falls, but it's hard to gauge that because that was the first time I've done it. Beyond the added muscle, martial arts training, and new helmet, Tagovailoa also just simply has to make the right decisions with the ball once the game starts. Sometimes that just means being smart with a throwaway when a pass is not there, which is something he has shown on multiple occasions in camp. It's always tough to live to see another play. We want to have a big play. We want to have the ball completed to the right guy, the open guy. It's just tough. As far as Tagovailoa's actual passing in camp, he had multiple downfield connections with Hill and Waddle Tuesday, and the receivers seemed to get over the drops that had plagued them earlier in camp. My chemistry with Tyreek, my chemistry with Jalen, my chemistry with everyone on the field, it's continuing to be a work in progress. He said you get comfortable at one point, but you've got to continue to work at it with their route depths, with where I'm expecting them to be, with where they're thinking they should be, things like that. Tagovailoa isn't the only Dolphin that participates in a martial arts to sharpen his game. Taron Armstead addressed what he gets out of boxing, which he has been doing on the side of practice early in camp while he was still on the PUP list. Armstead was asked simply, is his boxing or Tagovailoa's jiu-jitsu? He said, I'd whoop Tua. Tagovailoa outweighed by nearly 80 pounds, conceded, I give respect to the OG. So this is something where, I think he's been practicing on an internal clock too, Richmond, because that is something that has been pointed out to me by people that have been here. Sure, there's plays where I'm sure the coach conveys or he conveys, listen, even if he gets sacked, make the throw. I want to see you finish the throw and complete the play to see what's at the end of it, because it's literally touch and pull up. But, one thing I've heard that he has had no problem not only checking it down, but there's been times where he's totally thrown the ball away. What he's known, the pass rush is there, simulating a real pass rush. He's putting in the work, Richmond. We see this every season. There's always something he attacks to get better at. And this season, it's getting better. As weird as it sounds, it's getting better at staying on the field and staying healthy. And that's one thing you got to respect about this guy, his work ethic. And when he puts his mind to something, he usually accomplishes it, which is why I expect him to have a relatively healthy season, Richmond.
Yeah, it's just part of, with what Ballgame touched on with Noah. It's maturity. This is second year in this offense, so he grasped what he got last year, plus they're going to add on to it this year, but it's just a fine line in your decision-making process. I mean, you can be so competitive to the point that you think you're going to, every time you get on the field, you're going to score, and that's not realistic. Yeah. So you've got to be able to tweak it and fine-tune and say, hey, maybe this deal, we're backed up, we're inside the 20. Let's see if we can get it out to the 40. If you score, fine, but if not, let's get it out to where we give the punt team some room to where we can punt it out and play field position. So that's why you play 4 quarters. That's why the game is about 3 hours. Sometimes it's just a game of, chess, where you say, okay, let's see if we can get them backed up. If we can stop with great field positioning, maybe we can score. So I think it just comes along with playing, understanding, putting in the work, not just in the weight room and stuff like that. But I'm sure he spends a lot of time with Coach McDaniel, and then they discuss stuff. And I can even remember when we used to watch film, a lot of time Coach said, hey, just throw it away right here. It's nothing there, this and that. But sometimes you can hold it and you see a guy come open. You got to do it. So it's just tweaking that and understanding that when to do it, when not to do it. And I think it'll come. It's just like you said with the jiu-jitsu, you take it, and then it's like muscle memory. You do it enough, this and that. And I agree. Probably not this year you'll see it, but if he continues to do it, it'll automatically. But sounds like a little ninja, something talking about somersaults and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'm just glad that you can see it in training camp, that he's actually starting to sometimes just throw the ball away rather than just trying to hold it, and hoping a receiver breaks open and trying to make a play. So it just shows the maturity process, and that's what we look for.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
A hard habit to break, but
yeah, it is. Go ahead, Ballgame.
No, I'm just saying it. I mean, guys usually want to wait to the last minute and continue to make a play, but the game in the NFL is so much faster. Like he's got to take what you can get, and then play for the next down if it's gone. As soon as it's gone, save yourself so you can get back to the huddle and then get the next play. Make the next play your best play. That's what he needs to
What's
remember. And I think
what's
like
what's crazy though, Ballgame, is he
okay,
already has one of the quickest release times in the NFL. Like,
I know. Yeah.
so. All right, Ballgame, I want to get your thoughts on this next thing here, because this is something we talked about on the show before. I've talked about plenty of times. Let's play this clip here from Tua on Sirius XM satellite radio. Shout out to Jason Jenkins, RIP, in the background there.
The things that we did last year is somewhat kind of baseline of what you should expect having an offense like this, having the weapons that we have. I would say this year it's like coming in and we all know the offense, we all know the system. We know the way Mike likes to call plays. We know how he likes to call them as well. And we also know the timing of each other, the feel for one another. So I would say it's this offseason's been a lot more of sort of refurbishing, all of that within the offense. It's something that's really cool for us because as a organization, as a team, we've never had a year where we had the same offense come back. And so this is something that, makes the guys on our side of the ball feel very comfortable. Obviously, we got a new defensive coordinator, and so now they're going to have to learn, a new system. But throughout practices, it's been really good.
So, Ballgame, this is something we talked about in year two. This, after what we saw in year one, this offense having the potential to be historic. And that's basically what he's hinting at, because think about this. This guy's saying that's the baseline. What you saw last year was the baseline. That's the expectation, minimal expectation. I mean, scary hours for other NFL teams facing this offense, Ballgame.
Yeah, indeed. I think what he's what he's talking to more than anything is that Mike came in and Mike had his own growing pains, but them learning the base foundational structure of what the offense is built upon. Now they don't have to worry so much about that. They've proven that they've got that down. So now they can start adding the other layers. You can start going through the process of now putting the second floor on, saying they can go ahead and start pulling the walls, right? They're building a house, right? The house of the house of Miami Dolphins offense, and they set the foundation, and that's the most important part. So last year when you saw people talking about, oh, well, that's the same play, they're running the same plays over and over again. No, they look the same, but they're very different in terms of the route combinations and the routes that the receivers were doing, and the blocking was different as well. So getting that down and now being able to come back the second year, right? All it does is build towards what I always talk about, continuity, right? I go back and they proved, right, with Tua at the helm that they could be, extremely successful in Mike's scheme. And the scheme is tailored to the weapons that he has, right? Which is crazy too, because sometimes, you see coordinators come in and they just bring a scheme and the guys have to fit into it. Well, Mike brought a skeleton and said, okay, let me tweak this to fit the guys that I have, right? And that's why I remember when, I had that whole talk about having the Lamborghinis and the Forerunners and, and the players that we have and all those different things. He's basically building a house that's going to be able to encompass all of the cars and all of the type of vehicles that we have, right, for his offense. And all it's going to do is just make them that much more explosive. Because I think if they, if you can think about it, right, you take one formation, there's a plethora of things that you can do off that one formation, and with the amount of motion that he likes to do, you can see them more or less. They can RPO it, and they can also do conventional dropbacks from the same schemes, and that just adds to the complexity of what somebody has to actually game plan for week in and week out. And that is just crazy when you think about how many layers they're going to be able to add on to what they've already established, and it's supposed to be fun though. offense is supposed to be fun. Now, what he didn't say, which I'll say, is that defense, even though they're learning a new scheme, the scheme that Fangio runs is pretty user friendly if the guys understand the concepts associated with the individual coverages, and they can play free inside of it. So their learning curve is not nearly as steep as the offense's, but there is one there nonetheless. But if they're willing to get after it and get, they're them learning year 2 and the defense learning year 1, I think that's gonna make them equal in camp. To be honest with you, because defense generally can catch up a lot faster than offense can. So,
John Carlos J Dom says I was there live at training camp. It was a thing of beauty because Long has been incredible. You blink, you blink Long, you mess with Long. I don't know, but on the play, Tua was lights out. I think he's talking about the throw that I posted to Twitter where Tua layered that throw over the outstretched hands of David Long. That's the throw that I played it on the show yesterday, and then I posted it on Twitter. That's the throw a lot of people in the South Florida media were saying that's Tua's best throw of camp so far. So I think that's what he was talking about. Speaking of wide receivers and catching the ball and all that good stuff, Braxton Berrios, other than Chosen, making some noise yesterday, he beat Noah in one-on-ones, but then Noah turned around and locked down Braylon Sanders on the very next play. I just want to show this little piece here. Chatter on New Dolphins Braxton Berrios right here. Based on his early work in camp, Berrios seems to be the front runner for the number 3 receiver job. Cedric Wilson Jr. has had his moments. Robbie Chosen has had a generally quiet camp after standing out in May and June practices. So even Robbie was even turning our heads out here, and he's gone pretty quiet in the 11-11s and the team drills. And Braxton Berrios has been making plays every day, gentlemen. And this is a guy who I said initially before Chosen was making those plays, I was like, Braxton's my choice for wide receiver 3 because that's the type of receiver Tua loves. You just eat underneath. And then you add on top of what I'm hearing about Eric Ezukanma in terms of Eric Ezukanma taking on a lot of tight end duties. So when they run him out of 11 personnel in the slot and such, right, they can run 12 and 21 personnel packages out of that package with him off motion and such. So you hear this and, guys, is Braxton Berrios after 1 week pulling away with the wide receiver? Because this was one of the top battles a lot of us had slated watching at camp was the wide receiver battle. And right now, this seems like a Tyson fight where it might be over by the second round. You're lucky if you get out of the first right now. Berrios is running away. What are you guys' thoughts? Because I've heard nothing about Berrios has been making plays every day, guys. I don't know what to say.
Go ahead, Ballgame.
I'm not surprised, and I'll tell you why. Because as a he's playing the number 3, which is the slot, right? And he's a true slot. He's always been a true slot. So his understanding of how he fits inside and work his intricacies inside to outside or wherever they got him running his routes and stuff, that's nothing new to him because he's always been that guy. He's never been an outside guy. Chosen was an outside guy trying to come and be the number 3, which is going to put him inside at times and things of that nature. I don't think that's not the best fit for him. But if I'm looking to be, if I'm going to go and I'm going to pick 3 guys, and I got Waddle, I got Tyreek on the outsides, Berrios is going to be my true slot. He's the one true slot that they have, and I'm not 100% surprised because he's supposed to eat in there because that's what he's been doing his whole career, right? And that's what that's really what he's been, a slot receiver all of his career. So. Yeah, Chosen's got one hell of a battle on his hands, and I like that, though. I like the fact that dude is legitimately going out and saying, you know what, I know they brought you in. I know you had success, when you were with the Jets and when you was with the Panthers, bro, but I want to eat here, too, and I want the job to be mine. So, and he home anyway. Berrios is back at home, so what better for him than to play for the Dolphins because he went to the University of Miami. Now he's playing for the Dolphins, so I expected him to show out. I'm not surprised at all, to be truthful with you. So, yeah.
Your thoughts, Richmond?
Yeah, like Ballgame said, if he's a true slot and he's used to running, inside, that's definitely gonna give him an edge. But I think think the thing is he came in and he didn't look at whose name was on the back of the jersey. He looked at, I got an opportunity here, and made the most out of it, and said, well, I already know, like Waddle and Tyreek, they're gonna eat those guys outside, but I'm competing for this spot here, and I think it's gonna be mine. So he approached it, not looking at who else was left in the receiver room, and saying, "No, this is gonna be mine." And the good thing is he's got off to a good start. He's just got to be consistent and continue to produce, and he's gonna win that position. And like Ballgame said, if you're an outside receiver, that's different. That's just like everybody can't be a number one receiver. We saw that. I know I saw it with AB when he left Pittsburgh, and they moved Juju. Juju was a good receiver, but he wasn't a true number one. So you got to fit where you fit, and this and that. Chosen, you're not gonna be out those two, but now you got to really work, especially when you're not comfortable at a position, or you're more comfortable somewhere else. But if this was available, you got to make those adjustments, get comfortable, and try to make the most out of it and compete if you want to play. And when you play, that helps your incentives, it helps the team, this and that, and it helps you get paid. So I love competition, because iron sharpens iron. It's going to only make us better. So that's a good thing for us. But hats off to Braxton. Keep doing your thing.
Shout out to the homie Daddy Dean. It's his 54th birthday today. Happy birthday,
Daddy
to
Dean.
Yeah,
What's up? Happy birthday.
So, some quick notes here from. There's a lot of interesting notes in this one from Barry Jackson here. Several things that should make Dolphins cornerback Xavien Howard happy and potentially better in the move from Josh Boyer defense to a Vic Fangio defense. Boyer tired Howard out last season by making him shift sides on the line of scrimmage, often just before the ball was snapped. Some teams, when they found out I was following the best guy, they put me in motion a lot, got me tired before the rep. Without playing as much man like we did last year, and me not now following a guy here and there, it'll also help me a lot. I won't have to travel, be tired during the play. I feel like it's going to be easy for me. And that's something we've talked about, less traveling because on the hamstring. Fangio has been using Emmanuel Ogbah more as a stand-up outside linebacker than a hand-in-the-ground defensive end. I've heard this. I reported on the Patreon that I've heard he's looked better inside than he has looked coming off of a stand-up linebacker. David Long continues to impress everybody with his ability to diagnose plays and his speed to the ball. Kader Kohou, who has played very well in training camp, said he played 9 games last season with a broken hand. Wow. Tenant Durham Smythe mentioned this week that I think the one thing that was pretty evident was just how professional this team is. A lot of teams that have been on and that you see throughout the league, day 1, day 2 of pads, there's a lot of wasted time in the fights or whatever, people tapping out. The Dolphins front 7 has created havoc through much of training camp, and Smythe said he thinks it's one of the most talented. He thinks it's the most talented front 7 in the NFL. It's definitely the most talented I've seen here in the 5 years he's been there. It has been a bumpy first week for rookie tight end Elijah Higgins and undrafted former Campbell player Julian Hill. But Smythe pointed out these guys, I think, are different than a lot of guys we've brought in the past just because of how physically ready they are. They feel like they're NFL guys. A lot of times it takes time to transition to that. You're kind of swimming for a while. Both of these guys are physically ready. Fangio hasn't yet conveyed what player will have primary pre-snap communication responsibilities, a role that Baker and Javon Holland have handled before. Chris Greer was marveling about the Dolphins' speed this week, and here's one way to frame it per next-gen stats. Tyreek Hill has been timed at 23.2 miles per hour in a game. Raheem Moser, 23.1. Devon Achane, 22.2. Jalen Waddle, 21.8. Robbie Chosen, 21.3. And Braxton Berrios at 20.8. Madden 24, the Dolphins have the 2 fastest speed ratings at running back and wide receiver. And as we know, despite losing Jalen Ramsey, ESPN's Marcus Spears is among those still picking the Dolphins to win the AFC East. So, start with you, Ballgame. Kader Kohou, 2 things for you to speak on. Kader Kohou playing last season, 9 games with a broken hand. Oh. And also your thoughts on Emmanuel Ogbah standing up and Howard traveling less this year. Over 410 of you in the room. Smash that like button, by the way.
The lack of traveling for him is going to keep him fresh longer, right? That's definitely a tactic that most teams will use if they know that you're in man. You got to show it. You got to glue to your guy and go where he goes. But if he doesn't have to travel as much, and they're gonna just basically just bump the coverage and pass guys off, then that's gonna be able to keep him fresh a lot longer. And then it plays into the intricacies of the defense. They're not gonna show a whole lot of stuff pre-snap. So if a guy goes in motion and goes to the other side, then somebody just pick him up and you just readjust who has responsibilities for whatever's left of your side, and then you can basically squeeze down that side of the defense and then play the coverage, but at the same time, you saving your players from having to do all that ripping and running back across the field. It's just that's the beauty of that match zone, right? Everybody has to just bump, like I said, just bump the coverage over. I don't like Agua standing up. I don't think Agua is I mean, he said he did it when he was at Kansas City, but I believe that he's better inside as well. Maybe Fangio's seen something. Maybe that's going to be part of a bigger package that he has him in to put more bulk on the field at those outside linebacker spots to be able to deal with maybe the tackles a little bit different, or bigger, bulkier tight ends. But he wouldn't be my choice to do that. I just make sure that my other guys are trained up better for that position. I don't think Agba is athletically inclined enough to be playing outside linebacker. And then Kader Kohou playing with essentially a broken hand for 9 games. That just tells you really what type of dog he is, bro. Because the one thing that cornerbacks need to have readily available to them at all times is their feet in their hands. And if you don't, you're out there running around with 2 feet with one hand and you can't grip with the other one, it screws up your ability to tackle. It screws up your ability to jam guys and redirect them, and all these different things that happen at the line of scrimmage. And the fact that he was still as effective as he was with only one hand, man, just speaks to the fact that this kid was NFL ready long before, and a lot of people missed out on him. And Chris Greer found a true gem, man, a true diamond amongst the, amongst the cubics. And
Ballgame. He said last year I couldn't grab players to make tackles. You really can't wrap around. That's what he said.
Yeah. Because you need. It depends on where he was at, but if you can't close the hand up, then you can't secure it. You know what I mean? And no matter how much you try to bring the other one across, you need the hook. And if you can't close the hand, they're just gonna slip right through. Because these guys are powerful and fast at the NFL level anyway. So, but he still was over the top effective. And his ability to be able to go out there and do what he did. So for 9 games, my hat's off to him. I salute him. Yeah. He's a dog. He's a certified dog in my book.
That's big. Triple S podcast. What I love about our wide receiver corps depth is that it will allow Reek and Waddle to get ample rest and be 100% explosive when they're in, while we as a team and fans can be comfortable with who comes in. Richmond, I wanted to ask you that Durham Smythe talked about facing. Well, I got 2 questions for you. Durham Smythe talked about facing, a stout front seven, the best one he's faced since he's been there. And you faced some pretty good front sevens in your time, in training camp. Can you speak on that? Because you had to go up against Bruce Smith and those type of guys when the lights started, but you faced some good Dolphin front seven in training camp. And also a question for you, Greer and everyone's just gushing over the speed. Do you remember who the fastest player you played with on the Dolphins was? Do you remember one guy you just came in and you're like, holy jeez?
When I first got there, we say Duper and Tony Martin, they were receivers.
Yeah.
Duper and Duper was probably in like his 8th year, but Duper was the speed guy and Clayton was the guy who ran the other routes. But over the top, Duper was the guy that normally would
he ran a 4.28, right?
Yeah. I'd say that those 2 guys come right out of Duper and Tony Martin. And then he went to San Diego and then he came back, but Tony had a real long stride, this and that, but he could pick him up, put him down too. He's probably like a 4.3 guy too. So yeah.
And did you face some pretty good front sevens in training camp? How did that help you when you had to face, especially early on, when you had to face guys like Bruce Smith and such?
When I first got there, just about every day I worked against Jeff Cross, and then outside line, EJ Jr., and then the next year, Brian Cox was a really good pass rusher. So those guys helped me. And then when Jimmy got there, that's when Jason Taylor, Zach, Daryl Gardner, Timber was there before that, but you had Marion. Jimmy really put that defense together, and what I like about his comments is it seemed like the mentality has really changed. You hear the Dolphins talk about, we can go to the Super Bowl. You hear him talk about, I think we got the best front seven in the NFL. I mean, those are strong words, but it seems like it's been a shift in their mentality where they believe it and putting it out there and saying it, and they're not apologizing for it. So I think their confidence is sky high, which is a good thing. And I think not only the fans are excited, but I think they say, no, they thought we did something last year. This year we're gonna take it to another level. So I love the confidence. I love it when they're not scared to say something and this and that. And but it definitely helps when you go against really good team because it helps you prepare for the game, and the game comes to you easier when you got to work against a dog in practice.
For real. All right, continuing on here for all y'all. So finally here, the latest on Cook, because I know people want to know what's the deal with Dalvin Cook. You got some people saying, I'm sick of talking about it. Other people, what's the latest? So for everyone wondering, here's the latest on Dalvin Cook.
What is holding up the Dalvin? It was like, I don't know. That was just Dalvin.
No, it's not. No. The Dalvin signing is, I think, he's not in a rush right now, right? Like, first of all, if he doesn't play this year, he gets $2 million, period. So he wants to make sure the money's right. And every day, the running back situation seems to evolve, right? What's going to happen in Indianapolis? Are the Seattle backs injured? Is there another team that's going to lose a running back? And so the Jets have been interested. The Miami Dolphins have been interested. They're obviously, right now, not interested enough to make an offer that has forced him to go sign. So he's still waiting for a little bit more. And you can wait until you see if there's another team that loses a running back. Like, there are a lot of teams. What if they lose a running back? That happens all the time in camp. So he's not in any rush when he's got money coming. He's got two situations that he likes, but until he feels like it's right, he's not going to move on that. And right now, to me, the two teams in the Dalvin Cook market are the Jets and the Dolphins.
Yeah, and he's from South Florida. And his South Florida trainers trying to sire the Jets fans on him. Tweets,
shout out to Nick Hicks.
It feels like all of Miami is like, all right, let's make sure our guy. He went to Florida State once already. We already let him get out of. We already let him get out of South Florida. We get him back down here to Miami, but he's at practice with the Jets. He's doing all that. What is that normal? I guess that's just normal.
Well, no, they brought him in for a visit, and obviously it was very well calculated to do it during a practice where all the fans are there. Like, how could Dalvin Cook show up on a day where all the fans are there, where they're chanting his name, where all the players are going to come up? How can you show up on a beautiful New York, New Jersey weather day and not love what you see, right? This isn't New York or New Jersey in December when it's 11 degrees and the Jets are coming off a loss and the fans want to go hang somebody outside the building on the flagpole. Like, it's a different deal. In the summer, everybody's happy. So, of course, that visit couldn't be any better. Like, there was no way.
Yeah.
If he didn't love that visit, then something would have been really wrong.
Yeah.
Right? But in the end, money talks. So what do you want to do? So if the Jets made a good enough offer at that time, in his mind, then he would have signed. That didn't happen. So he is taking his time. He's evaluating the scenarios. And when he feels like he is compensated in a fair way, then he'll move at that point. I mean, when you see that these other running backs, there hasn't been a change in the market. Another team hasn't jumped in.
I'd say.
So there you go. That's the latest on the Dalvin Cook situation. Just in no rush. And I mean, you can talk up that situation in New York all you want, but it obviously wasn't alluring enough for him to sign, right? So, anyways, that's the latest for all of y'all. That's what's going on with the situation. Nothing new. So, final thoughts for you, gentlemen, before we get out of here. Richmond, we'll start with you.
Hey, great show. Enjoyed it. Looking forward to hopefully bumping into some of y'all this weekend. I'll be in Canton for Zach's induction. Definitely proud of my brother. for achieving getting that induction in there and hanging out with some Dolphin fans, stuff like that. So if y'all see me, please say hello or whatever. Don't act like no stranger. Don't treat me like Ballgame and Reason. Y'all act like y'all know me. So other than that, and then after I get back, not next week, I think the week after, the Dolphins work against the Texans.
You'll be there.
I think the 16th December. I'm gonna go over there because I'm right here in Houston. So
they have their first joint. They're back to practice tomorrow. Then they're off Friday. Then they have their first controlled scrimmage on Saturday. Then they have joint practice with the Falcons next week.
Okay.
So practice to start. We get real answers. Over 420 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Ballgame. Your final thoughts.
Man, I don't know why Rich be out here throwing shots, man, acting like we treat him like he ain't part of the place or something. But
call him legendary every time.
All right. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Got so much love for this brother, but he just, I don't know. Man, football is here, bro. This is the best time of the year, right? I think now to the point they're gonna get. They've been going at it right every day since they put the pads on, hitting on each other, but the real test comes in how you gonna tee off on somebody that don't belong to you. You know what I'm saying? And we're getting closer to that. So that's gonna be where I go through the process of making my first real true evaluations and start thinking about what this team's gonna look like for that 53, right? Because that's the goal, right? If you can show out against your guys and you got top athletes that you're going against, you should be able to go against other teams and still be able to provide that same level of productivity. So I don't think there'll be much of a drop off. Falcons really don't have a whole lot that I'm worried about. It should be a royal butt kicking. Even the Texans too, but nevertheless, it's just all good work, and I'm glad that we're in a position to be able to get as much of it as possible, and then be able to report it to the people so that they have a clear understanding of how this thing is shaping up towards this hopefully Super Bowl run that we're gonna make this year. So good time.
Go. I saw a report today too. I didn't nab it or whatever. So I don't remember what I saw, but I saw a report about and again, this isn't from his camp. This isn't anything I've been told personally. I saw a report out there that Dalvin Cook thinks his best chance at getting another contract after this one will be with the Dolphins. So that could play a factor too, right? Like if they give me the best chance to win and pop off, because from what I understand, he was basically told, well, I'll save all that stuff, but no, I won't. Anyways, I saw a report today that he was told that, Breece Hall, when he comes back, they're giving the job right to him. That's their guy. So he knows to get another contract, the Dolphins might be the best spot to up his value if he wants to up his value, right? Because they'll win and they'll give him chances. So we'll see how it all plays out, man. But listen, still over 400 of you in the room. Smash that like button, subscribe if you're new. I'll be live tomorrow on 5 p.m. with Neil. We'll recap day 7 of training camp. And then Saturday, we'll be back for the controlled scrimmage. We got a lot going on. And then next week, we get into some Dolphins football. So we'll see you on the next one. As always, fins up all day, every day. Hope y'all enjoyed it. And we'll see y'all back here next week. Take it easy, everyone.